Hello and welcome to some more Star Citizen with a load of new information on the new flight experience that's just gone to the Alpha 3.5 Evocati build and is being tested now. This is a summary of Reverse the Verse new flight experience from the 1st of March 2019, as well as some additional insights and corrections by the devs from Spectrum. In Reverse the Verse, they took questions on the new flight model coming with Alpha 3.5, as well as giving it a demo. It's worth mentioning that the model is still in flux at this time, and is being built on, iterated upon, and will see a good amount of changes, even in the 3.5 build, just from the Evocati and PTU tests. The flight model is the set of rules which they use to move ships. The underlying system for this is physics-based. You don't have direct control over the individual thrusters. The IFCS, the Intelligent Flight Control System, crunches your inputs to give you the desired outputs. Weapons, combat, individual systems, and how they balance are not part of the flight model. They are separate to it. They are not balanced in isolation, though. They do work with the other teams to get every part of ship flight and function working correctly. John Pritchett created the original Star Citizen IFCS system. The system has now been iterated on and evolved a lot since its original conception, and now it's been entirely reworked for the game's needs in Alpha 3.5 and for Squadron 42, obviously. David Coulson and a dedicated team have now taken the reins of that flight model. In 3.5, they are not having G-forces throw around crew and passengers walking around the ship. It would be extremely hard to appropriately animate characters for that. They are talking about having limits to inertial dampeners, so that if you took a massive impact, like around an asteroid or something, that could cause issues for the crew in the future. They have reduced the rotation velocity and acceleration of ships in the 3.5. Larger ships will have slower rotation velocities, and like larger fighters even. Smaller ships may be able to track close targets and stay on them and aim on them much more easily, though, than larger ones. As it's so integral to combat and the way that the ships sort of like operate, this is one of the things that's at their top of their test priorities, especially in Evocati. Expect it to get very tuned so that we're not going to have issues where you are unable to fight certain ships against each other because, like, the M50 will just absolutely wreck a Super Hornet or something because the Super Hornet can never hit it. They want to tune that so there are different skills and nuances going on with the combat, and it's appropriate to their sort of like new design choice. And with design choice in mind, combat is slower than it was before. They don't want ship combat to feel like an FPS shooter. Combat requires a bit more planning and foresight rather than twitch shooting. Each ship will fly differently, their mass and choice of thrusters making a choice, especially in atmosphere. The larger the ship, typically the less agile it will be, and that's why turrets will be extremely important, allowing larger ships to fend off smaller ones. In 3.5, ships will still feel a little floaty in atmosphere. They are planning to address this potentially in 3.6. They don't want ships to feel like they are in space when they're planetside, if you see what I mean. And in regard to atmospheric flight, there is lift in the new flight model. Different altitudes and atmospheres will both affect the way you fly. Ships that are more suited for atmospheric flight will have an advantage. Atmospheric density is scaled exponentially to decrease as you go up in the atmosphere. The higher you are in the atmosphere, the higher your max speed and acceleration, basically. Lower altitude maneuvers can make you black out much more easily or red out. Aerodynamic ships will also benefit from gliding, even if their engines are entirely off, where something like an Aurora might not be able to glide at all or much at all before this hitting the ground like a brick. So you'll have not much control when you're gliding and you'll eventually come crashing down in whatever circumstance. Taking hits in atmosphere can cause you to lose control, or at least very much feel the kinetic impacts of those hits. If you start to take damage to your thrusters, you're going to really start to know about it. The afterburner in-game, as of 3.5, gives you an acceleration increase. It's meant to be used in short bursts as well, because it causes a lot of heat and wear, and through prolonged use it's going to misfire, and having thrusters fail can be bad because it can paralyze your ship or cause you to hit things like the ground. There is no boost anymore at all, as it's become the afterburner, and the old afterburner no longer exists. if you see what I mean. Damage to thrusters will cause ships to lose thrust in a particular direction, making your ship more sluggish with certain movements. Your ship won't entirely lose control if you lose a thruster or two, but if you lose a lot of them, you could have issues. Obviously, if you lose all of your thrusters and all of your main thrusters and everything, you will lose control and you will just come crashing down. You have no engines. Some ships are impractical for atmospheric flight. They will not be able to leave planets or moons' atmospheres without assistance or unlading themselves of cargo. This is going to be mass-based of both ship and astral body when it comes to mass. The ship's VTOL and any damage that the ship has received will also affect that as well. But as I said, you can get assistance from shedding cargo, repairing your ship, getting an SRV to help you get out of atmosphere, things like that. They mentioned that the Reclaimer might not be able to take off from certain planets, but then clarified that on Spectrum, saying the accelerations of the Reclaimer are not enough to lift off when the thrusters are not rotated downward on some planets. They tested it, and if you rotate them downward, you are able to then lift off. If you vertically lift off with thrusters rotated down, and then rotate them back to normal and point up, you will have the same thrust and still be able to leave the atmosphere. It is still planned to be able to detach landing mode from your VTOL engines and thrusters, but this is not going to be in 3.5. There is going to be a G-meter on the HUD. One of the things I hope we get as well is a gravity warning, so that when we are near an astral body or something that is going to be hard or impossible for our current ship to break orbit in or get out of the atmosphere in, is what I should say, then it will give us a warning saying you are approaching something, which is probably not great for you to approach. If you want to land here, then you're going to need assistance to get out, sort of warning. Different ships will have different maximum speeds in atmosphere. You can more easily do banking turns in Atmo, or at least it's more preferable to do banking turns in atmosphere, and you will be able to do banking turns in space. The HUD and model have seen a good amount of work since CitizenCon as well. W and S is now straightforward and backwards by default. You can set your cruise and velocity speed, and then press a button to auto cruise at that speed. The mouse wheel will literally on the fly set your throttle or velocity limit. There is a true speed indicator now as well, showing your velocity in any given direction. The speed gauge goes red when you're beyond the recommended SCM speeds. This basically translates into a reduction in your maneuvering speed and the amount of sort of angular control you have over your ship. You could set the limit at 1% if you want to do precision landings, or maximum if you wanted to speed off into the distance at sort of like maximum cruise speeds. The thruster power slider was removed. You can still lower thruster power in the multifunction displays by literally lowering power to the thrusters, though this experience still needs some work, so it will likely return in some form in the future. Gravlev vehicles on the ground are also entirely reworked, kind of acting like jet skis while on the ground now. So the closer you come to the ground, the more sort of like grip and control you have. Getting hit will cause you to lose some control. There is no decoupled mode for Gravlev vehicles when they are on the ground. When you're in space, you can decouple. You are able to hover on water just like it was ground. Taking a dragonfly from space to ground is a bad idea if you're doing it by itself. Gravlev only works when you're close to the ground, so you're likely to hit the ground very hard if you go straight from space to ground. Decoupled mode can be toggled on or off, but there's also now a push and hold key for it as well, which will allow you to do like sort of like on the fly maneuvers. ESP has been weakened in general, but is getting reworked too, and it's of a high priority. It sounds like they're trying to get ESP done for 3.6. Combat in general, again, is a pretty high priority for them. Ships crashing into each other or asteroids have been dampened and toned down somewhat. They don't want you to entirely lose control of your ship after colliding with something. Ships crashing into the ground and bouncing and that sort of stuff, they were bugs, though they didn't mention if they had resolved them for 3.5. They said they could easily implement a altimeter that tells you where the actual ground level is, but they didn't think it was important. However, after the RTV, they did say, we've heard you loud and clear, and we'll look into getting a radar altimeter. This is going to be in addition to sea level altitude. They will expose more information to players on the HUD in the future as well. The demo they showed was a bit rough around the edges on RTV. The Gravlev vehicles were a bit janky and rigid. The Gladius in atmosphere seemed extremely drifty to me. They do want to get this into the best possible state they can for 3.5 live using the Evocati feedback, so it's going to get a good amount of work before it goes live, it sounds. They also sound like they've removed the acceleration control, as it appears that it wasn't being utilized much in their testing. Previously it was on the mouse wheel, but now velocity control is on mouse wheel. I feel that acceleration control does have some extremely good uses. This literally allows you to limit the maximum amount of acceleration your ship can use, so you can use it for very sort of like good precision movements, or bits where you're trying to, like, I don't know, dock a ship inside another ship or something. But I'll know more once I've tested the flight model. It's very possible that it's going to be back in for 3.5 if it has a tangible use, so don't be too pitchforky. Try the flight model when you get your hands on it for the PTU and give your feedback based on that. The stuff they showed, it's hard to translate what a flight model and what changes are like just by showing some pictures and video, but once it's in your hands, you'll be able to know in a lot more detail how it actually feels and be able to give proper feedback on that. Lots of other older issues with the flight model and Gravlev have been solved apparently, but expect a load of new problems throughout Evocati and the PTU phases, and probably extending into the live build. The flight model is a focus for them at the moment, but the way Star Citizen works when it comes to these features is that they iterate upon them in minor patches and major patches, and as the flight model and combat are a focus of this year and these next few patches, because they need to get Squadron 42 Episode 1 out, I expect it to have a lot of changes, iterations, updates in the next few patches, probably sort of like potentially past CitizenCon into the end of the year sort of thing. So hopefully they'll have it nailed down by the latter half of this year. I would suggest if anyone has any concerns over the flight model, make your concerns known, but as soon as you are able to test the flight model, do it. Get into the PTU, get into 3.5 live, give your feedback based on actually testing it with your own hands. And once I'm able to, once it's gone to the first wave PTU, we can discuss a bit more of the flight model. As I'm an Evocati tester, I don't have the privilege of being able to discuss stuff beyond that NDA in its current state. Every month we have a ship giveaway. This month, by popular demand again, it's for an Anvil Carrack, this time sponsored by Forgotten Heralds, a lawful private military company with a history grounded in UEE military service. They are recruiting at the moment and are a good choice for both veteran and new players alike. All you need to do to be in for a chance of winning that Carrack, though, is be subscribed to my YouTube channel and comment on any of my Star Citizen videos made during this month. Links to more info on Forgotten Heralds and full details of the giveaway down below. If you don't have a gaming PC yet, or you are upgrading, instead consider Shadow Cloud Gaming. They allow you to leverage the powers of the internet to stream a high-spec Windows 10 environment to any other PC, Mac, or device like a smartphone or tablet. It is working really well in Star Citizen's 3.4 branch, and be sure to use the code BoredGamer if you do decide to check it out to get a discount. Links below. This channel exists because of its community. If you wish to support the channel further, below there are links to Patreon, Subscribestar, and there's the YouTube channel memberships, literally the join button below this video. VIPs do get some exclusive stuff and early content as a thank you as well. If you have any feedback, suggestions, or just want to say hi, please drop a comment below or poke me on discord.gg/BoredGamer. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the verse.